Here we are again, another episode of Industry Insights. Today I'm joined by Jaime Arredondo, an artist in New York. Jaime, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I really do appreciate it.
So, Jaime, tell me what kind of art do you do? What's it like being an artist in New York? And then share with us a little bit about how you got there.
Yes. Well, I've been painting for quite a while. I've been living here in New York City for over 20 years. And when I first came to New York City, I started doing abstract paintings. But I transitioned after a couple of years and wanted something completely different. And I started painting large flowers. I live in an area of Long Island City, Queens, that has no flowers. There's no birds and few trees. And I somehow created this body of really beautiful work of flowers that now tours in museums throughout the Southwest, Oklahoma and Texas. I've had a number of one-man shows there. And I also, 2 years ago, created a permanent public art project for the MTA of 36 mosaics of my flower paintings that's located in the Bronx on the 6th line in the Bronx, and it's called Garden of Earthly Delights, and I'm very proud of it. It's mosaics on both sides of the subway track, and people love it. And I'm very happy to contribute that to the city of New York and to the Bronx. I came here originally because I went to university, Yale University, and got an MFA in painting, and decided to come here to New York City and be among all the other artists and start competing here and getting involved in the cultural scene here. And I've stayed here ever since and love it. I love New York City.
That's awesome. So you've got art in the Southwest, in New York City. Are you exclusively doing flowers and floral paintings, or do you have other types of art or other mediums that you express yourself in?
Well, great question. Those paintings that I did of flowers are used, they're made with oil paints, and using oil paints is a very difficult, there's almost an alchemical kind of aspect to painting with oils, and it takes a long time to master. And they're really large paintings too, by the way. They're 5x5, 6x6, and but now, because of my interest in research in Mesoamerican mythology, the Aztecs and the Mayans, for example, I'm finishing up a body of work, ink drawings, based on the Popol Vuh. And the Popol Vuh is about, it's a Mayan creation myth of the universe. And those will be shown at the NYU Gallery. I've just now been given a show at the NYU Gallery in New York City. And they're going to be about a total of 45 to 50 illustrations. It's a lot. Diego Rivera, I didn't know, the famous muralist, also did illustrations of the Popol Vuh years ago. And I don't know if mine are as good as Diego Rivera's, but I'm working very hard on them. And I'm very proud that it's going to go up in December and then go through February. So I'm very happy about the show.
So there is a strong link of an artist at your level between being an artist and being in the studio and the business of art, negotiating with galleries and museums to make sure that your art is on display, and working with universities to make sure that you're teaching and earning the status to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So share with us a little bit about the business of art and how you navigate that relationship.
Well, first I want to say it took me a long time to get to the position that I'm in. It took many years, and it took a lot of mistakes and errors, and then going past those and failures, and then getting back up and trying over again. And I always tell young people that art is not a short distance race. It's a long marathon that goes on for a long time. And it's very important to learn from one's mistakes and failures and to keep going. I tell them that I believe in the 3 P's, which are persistence, perseverance, and passion. Those 3 things were never really taught to me in undergraduate and graduate universities in my studies. I learned those along the way. And I learned that those are extremely important. And I also learned that networking is very important, especially in the field of academics and in art. One has to constantly be networking and being out there and going on Instagram and Facebook and just constantly networking with people. This is very important. It keeps one fresh, keeps one alive, it keeps one current. So, I mean, I think it's important that one is always out there, and don't be afraid to self-promote oneself. And this is extremely important too. Especially in New York City. New York City is a very complex world, and it's multi-layered, and it takes a lot of work just to understand where the different groups are that you need to meet, the different people that you need to meet, and very important to document, record names and contacts, and be nice to everyone.
Excellent, thank you. So you've been in art for, as you said, 20 plus years earlier in the conversation.
That's right.
And across that time period, we've seen innovations like digital editing, electronic communication, changes massively in photography. Tell me about how the technology advancements have influenced your work, and then also what you've seen generally on the art industry and the art management industry as a whole.
Well, we're relying so much on digital networking, information, communication. This is extremely important. And as I'm saying this now, I'm reminding myself of these things, that networking via the internet is extremely important. These innovations that are going on now that we're seeing is, I think, it's important to understand that networking via the internet is that these innovations happen for the most part within this digital world. And I think it's important to stay up to date and current within this digital context universe. And I also think, though, that one should not disregard this human aspect of going out and talking to people, speaking to them over the phone, and shaking their hands. And I think that those two worlds, the digital world and this very human world of going out and talking to people and shaking their hands, is extremely important. And one has to balance those two aspects. I know artists, young artists now, that are constantly putting themselves out there, and this is good. This is a good thing. But one shouldn't forget that one has to go out and speak to people, talk to people, shake their hands. And there's nothing like the human contact, going out in person and speaking to them. Allow yourself to see them and allow them to see you, and make those really human contacts. I mean, this is really important.
So you teach at various art schools in New York City, and you've done so for a while. Talk to us a little bit about some of your students, what you see making them successful, and what you see some of the weaknesses that most students need to improve on as they transition from undergrad to graduate or to the working world.
I think, one of the things that allows students to transition into that professional world is that, again, and it may be because of the internet, Instagram, there seems to be this focus on instantaneous fame. And there's this kind of like star aspect about, even in the visual arts, that one is going to get famous really fast over, in a matter of 3 or 4 years. And 99.9% of the time, it just doesn't happen that way. George Bernard Shaw said, talent and success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. It's just a lot of work. And I go back to the 3 Ps: persistence, perseverance, and passion. You have to be involved in a discipline. And that discipline means that it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time. And you have to have patience. and you have to just constantly be out there networking and working your discipline, honing it, improving it, making sure that it's even better than it was before. And I also find that young people just don't make that list of goals. You know, what we find is that the majority of people that write down goals and objectives will end up achieving those goals and objectives. We often overestimate what we're going to do in 1 year, but we often also underestimate what we're going to do in 5 years. And it's, you know, young people should make that 1 year trajectory, you know, schedule. What's going to happen in 1 year? What's going to happen in 3 years? And then what's going to happen in 5 years? And so young people think that things are going to happen very fast in the art world, but it doesn't. Things can move very slow, and then all of a sudden they speed up, and you have to be able to recognize when they speed up. You know, when it takes time, a certain amount of time, and then when things speed up. And those things maybe one just experience through life, just getting out of school, and then the other things are taught in university. Unfortunately, I was never taught those things, mentorship, guidance. You know, those are some things I hope to impart on some of the students that I meet through Ivy Gate. And there is a greater focus on, you know, business management of one's skills in art. I never received that, and I think these students are really have a great advantage over others that just don't have this kind of guidance and input from people like me that have gone through this.
So do we. So do we. I have two final questions. Second to last question. When you think about the world of art, you have universities, you have artists, you have museums and galleries, and there's a whole field of the artist and then art management. How does an artist communicate with a museum or a gallery to get their art on display? And then alternatively, who are those people that we're talking to? What does a gallery look like? What does a museum look like from a personnel standpoint? And what are other options in the art space available to other people who are not the ones painting the canvas, etc.?
Well, you know, that's a question that many artists are dealing with all the time, and they're trying to find the right people to speak to. And all the other artists are jockeying for a position to speak to those same people. And we're always trying to find that one thing that allow us to get their attention. Just give us 5 minutes of your time so I can speak about my work. In my personal experience, what I do, and I used to hate doing this, but now I found out I'm quite good at it, and that is cold calling. I cold call. I call people, you know, 2 times a week, and, you know, call them on a Tuesday. Never call on a Monday. I'll always call on a Tuesday or Thursday. Monday's too bad. Monday's too chaotic. And leave your name, leave a brief message, follow up with emails, sending your images of the work, and then call them again another week or the next week. Give them a week to think about it. Call them again the next week. And one thing that I think I didn't understand, and I think young artists don't understand, is that you're always building up, creating a relationship with these people in museums and galleries. There's a real human aspect to it. They want to see who you are. They want to hear you. They want to talk to you. They want to look at your work. You know, art is a feeling kind of thing. We're not creating sneakers or you know, toothpaste here. Art deals with emotions. It deals with feelings. It deals with memory. It deals with imagination. And so there's a certain poetry to it, to creating art. And you have to allow that person that's going to be showing your work for 2 or 3 months. You know, they're taking a lot of money to do it, and they have to make this whole part of the museum space just for you to show the work. They want to know that there's a certain poetry, a certain beauty about it, that something that makes your work and your story, my story, unique and rare and fascinating and interesting. So I try to give them all kinds of shiny objects to look at and to consider, to push them over that line and say, yes, we're going to give Jaime Arredondo a one-man show. It's not easy. It's incredible that I've had all the one-man shows I've had, but I was able to convince them that my story is unique and rare, and my work is unique and rare. And I think that's what I want to impart to young people too, is that, you know, ask the question, what makes your story so unique and rare? What makes your narrative, what makes your work so unique and rare? And by the way, this is really part of the American experience, that idea of a story. We all love stories. We can reinvent ourselves and recreate ourselves and reinvent our stories again. This is okay. That's part of the American experience. We're always reinventing ourselves. And that's why people come to New York City. So those are some of the things that I would impart, and how to find a show within these museums and galleries. It's narrative, it's story, it's uniqueness, it's a rarity about your work and yourself.
Excellent, thank you. And Jaime, I have one final question, and I'd like for you to respond to a quote. Take your time, think about it for a second. The great Andy Warhol once said, "Being good in business is the most fascinating kind of art. Making money is art, and working is art, and good business is the best art."
I like that. That's a great quote. I mean, that's a great thought. I like that very much. I used to think just the opposite, by the way. Years ago, when I started working, I thought I would never consider, ever consider creating my art for anyone. It's just, my art is just for me and a couple of friends. And now I realize I want that large audience. I want a large audience so I can speak to a lot of people. My art can speak to a lot of people. And there would be the possibility of selling the work so that I could continue making more work and maybe helping other people at the same time, like framers and the creators of canvas and stretcher bars and et cetera, et cetera. I see that there's sort of a linkage, a connection, that when I'm successful, other people are successful. And the business of art, there's something artful about creating a business that's based on art. There's an artistic aspect about creating that kind of business. And it's even more interesting, that kind of business, when it's connected to making beautiful things so that people want to see them. And you know, Matisse had this very famous saying that most people actually don't know about. He said, "I create paintings for bored businessmen." Think about that. Even Matisse understood who his audience was. You know, he was like even thinking ahead of what Warhol was thinking. He's like, there's a business aspect to creating art. These bored businessmen, when they come home and they're exhausted, they want to see beauty on the wall. They want to have a cup of coffee, or they want to have a cocktail and look at beautiful objects on the wall. So Matisse was very conscious about this, and so was Warhol. He was very conscious about who his audience was. And that was something, by the way, Matt, that was never expressed to me in either undergraduate or graduate school. They never asked me that very important question: who's your audience?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just 3 people? Is it 20 people? Warhol, you know, Warhol also said, he said, they asked him, who is your art for? And he said, well, just me and for a couple of friends. But he was being, you know, really coy with that answer. He mass produced art, and he wanted the largest audience that he could get. And understandably so, because that's leads in this aspect of business. And, you know, I went to several, I go to business conferences here. There's a business library. I don't know if you know about it, but it's on in Midtown. And I go and I listen to entrepreneurs on the latest aspects of new business innovations coming out. And when there's someone coming through to NYU and speakers NYU and New School, I go to them. You know, I took a course on just creating the buzz, that was the name of the course at New School. So business is really important. I changed from that, you know, artist in Texas, young artist. I just wanted for a couple of friends to now come to New York City and painting these flowers. And one of the reasons why I created these flowers, painting the flowers, was to create a larger audience. I wanted that larger audience. I wanted to be a part of that. And you know, again, business of art entails networking, going on the, you know, internet, you know, self-promoting yourself, talking to people, shaking their hands. That's all part of the business. And Warhol knew that. He was constantly out there.
Excellent. Thank you, Jaime. Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Industry Insights with Jaime Arredondo.
Thank you very much, Matt. I really do appreciate your time.
As do we. Thank you.
Thank you.